Last month, we had the pleasure of getting a brand new MMO revealed. This
Imagine that.
happens very rarely, so when it does, it's
What was so crazy about this one was the fact that it just kind of happened out of nowhere. And also it was so good.
quite the event for fans of the genre. The game was called PAX Day, and according to its developer, it is a vast social sandbox, low fantasy MMO inspired by the legends of the medieval era, with community and emergent gameplay at its heart.
I mean, this is what I'm all about. I love this. This is some fucking Fellowship of the Ring shit here. Oh, man.
Now, initial reception for both of its reveal trailer and developer deep dive were very positive. Each video has like hundreds and thousands of views and is full of comments expressing interest in the game. As for the game, what do we know? Well, the reveal did give us a few of the basics. It's an open world, player-driven survival sandbox MMO. The core loop of the game will involve the typical gathering materials, crafting weapons and armor, and building bases. We'll start in a region of the world known as the Heartlands, where we are free to build and craft in relative safety, and then once we are prepared, we can venture out into the woodlands full of dangerous PvE enemies and the threat of other players, as the game does have PvP. We saw snippets of various systems.
Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty interesting to see what the difference is and like how PvP and PvE comes together in a game like this. I'm not really... Like, in general, my outlook on all games that have PvP that are MMOs is that every time that you make somebody PvP that doesn't want to, that's going to be a bad experience for that person. And they're going to be less likely to play the game afterwards because you're making them do something they don't want to do. And then, you know, punishing them for not being good at it whenever they get killed by somebody else, it just kind of sucks, right? And it's, again, like, not like these people are in some cases bad PvPers. You know, this might be somebody who's like, you know, platinum or diamond in League of Legends, but they just don't want to PvP in this game. And so forcing somebody into it is, I think, always a bad idea. But we're going to have to see exactly what this game really is like and like how much of that there really is. Because, again, it's always theoretical. So it's the same thing with conversations about Ashes of Creation.
In the developer vid, there was some base building on display, a variety of different size and types of buildings, which include up to player-built cities. They have, in fact, said that every building in this game will be player-built. There were crafting stations with...
Every building in the game is player-built? What the fuck? I wonder what that even is going to be like.
Players making potions, weapons, and armor. We also saw refining stations like tanning racks and smelters. There were some shots of the UI, which showed us what looked to be work-in-progress equipment and inventory system. There was also a tab for skills, implying some sort of character progression. And there were a few brief clips of combat with players hunting wildlife, during which I'll say gameplay animations look a bit rough, but given that this...
Oh, it doesn't look that good. Like, the gameplay doesn't look great. It looks, I mean, like, visually it looks great. But, I mean, it's okay, great. This doesn't excite me.
Game. They haven't announced that it's launching anytime soon, and they've said that the combat is a placeholder. With all of that in mind, we'll cut the combat animations a little bit of slack. They also discussed the game's use of low fantasy, pulling from myths and fables from around the world. PAX Day will have magic, but it is going to be sparse. You won't be like spamming fireballs, for example. So that is a basic overview of what we learned about PAX Day during its reveal last month. Now, since then, tons of new information has come out through interviews, AMAs, FAQs, as well as some idle chat over on the official Discord channel. We know much more about PAX Day than we did just a few weeks ago. We also know more about this. The sponsor of today's video, Tower of Fantasy. This is a free-to...
I was literally about to say those mushroom guys look like the game in Tower of the ones in Tower of Fantasy. That's actually fucking crazy. Because I was like, bro, now they know how it feels to steal, to be stolen from.
Play shared open world MMO. The game features a large explorable world where players can team up to fight bosses, discover interesting locations, and unlock relic equipment together. It's got an interesting combat system where you can freely swap different weapons on the fly, and you can customize your own character with a super detailed and easy creation system. Now, the game recently got a major update, version 2.4, which adds a ton of new content. There's a brand new map, the Grand Sea. This is the first underwater area in the game. Here,
they're really pushing this game with a lot of marketing. I wonder how many people are actually playing it. Like, it has its own launcher, so there's no real way to tell. But how many people are watching this game on Twitch? I'm kind of curious. Tower of Fantasy. Uh-oh. Maybe I missed it. I did. It has 800 viewers. That's not a lot. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's on Steam also. Is it? Let me see how many people are watching it on Steam or playing it on Steam. That's not very good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. Let's get back to it. But I do wonder how many people are actually playing it, because like Steam is not. I'd say maybe it's not like even half of the people that play it, but I'm not sure.
You can explore the Grand Sea Island, the innards, and the Dragon Breath volcano. There's also a new boss, Ebola, located in that volcano.
Wait.
Breath volcano. There's also a new boss, Ebola, located.
His name's Ebola? That's good.
In that volcano, which presents a new group challenge for you to overcome. There are two new characters, Lan and Icarus. Lan uses an energy-laden umbrella as a weapon, while Icarus has an icy yo-yo ball. There's also new story quests taking you on an adventure through the whole new zone. There are new events like the Grand Sea Treasure Hunt, and even new mini-games to engage with. If you are interested in checking out Tower of Fantasy on PC or mobile and giving the new update a look for yourself, go ahead and use my link in the video description below. Okay, so now I want to dive into some of the nitty-gritty new details that have come out on the game. As I mentioned, a lot of this new...
Can we please add Force Gaming to the list of people who's been sponsored by this fucking game? And I still haven't. This is fucking disgusting. I can't believe this.
Information comes from a few sources. There were a couple of developer interviews that were done, as well as a published FAQ and an ever-growing AMA with some very chatty developers over on the official Discord. Let's start off with the game's inspiration. They have said that PAX Day is filled with gameplay elements that borrow from all sorts of games, from the survival genre and games like Ark Survival Evolved. But maybe more so is that the game borrows heavily from things like the economic model of EVE when it comes to the fact that they use geography-based scarcity and having this dynamic marketplace. To quote the developer directly, they said, being an MMO, harvesting and crafting are core pillars of the experience in the game. But
I feel like a lot of these people, they're like devs for video games, they're like designers, but they might not really play a lot of games. There are all the time people that have ideas of what would be really cool to have in a game, and then you put it in the game and it destroys the game. But theoretically, it sounds really cool if you don't think about how players will actually interact with it. So I always worry about that with new MMOs.
in our world, the weapons, the armor, the construction pieces needed for your village, these are all items that are...
The devs look old and woke. So true, brother. Base. Fuck. Why are they woke? Because they're white? Like, what? What are you... Because they got glasses? Like, what? What are you thinking?
Crafted and manufactured by the players themselves. So essentially, all of the things that you can gain access to in the world have been produced by someone else in the game. Having recently...
I love the idea of that.
Gone back to Albion Online, this is very reminiscent of what that game does. It's got this player-driven economy, but it's player...
Oh, because there was a woman. That'll do it, huh?
Fueled. Players touch every aspect of it. Anything that's involved in the trading system is something that a player either harvested, refined, or crafted themselves. And I think that makes for a real interesting experience, especially when layered on everything else. So the Heartlands, this is where things begin for us in the game. Players begin in these relatively high elevations among this green, foresty region known as the Heartlands. There, we will be working with other players in safety. We can, without much concern, build up small villages villages, join and create clans, plant crops, craft equipment, do some basic farming, gathering, hunting of wildlife, and the sight lines from where you are in the highlands are going to be very purposefully.
Yeah, I mean, that looks really nice, man. Like, I really like the visual of this. I think it's very, you know, it's very comfy. I would want to build a house in this area. This is cool.
Long, they say. So you are elevated and you can look down amongst the world as it kind of goes into these deep areas, these cavernous areas, these dense woodlands, and those are all places they've said you can go. It's like the Skyrim pitch, right? You see that mountaintop, you can go there. Well, in this case, you start off on the mountaintop and you can go as far as the eye can see. What's even more interesting, though, is they say the different ways that they try to motivate players to get there, because it does seem like this is going to be a game where the further out you push, the more dangerous it gets. And I quite like the structure that they're talking about with this game, where you start off in this like safe haven, you build yourself up, you do all of the basics, and then once you're feeling brave enough and you feel like you have your equipment and you're prepared, then you start pushing out, you push down into these dense wooded areas and start the exploration. And the further you go away from the Heartlands, the more dangerous things get. It's a really cool kind of adventure-y promise. Now let's talk about
I mean, everything about this sounds really cool.
The questing. The game does not have a traditional MMO quest system. You are not
So you're grinding for mobs. Okay, got it. I played Black Desert. I understand that.
Be picking up quests from NPCs because, as mentioned, there are no friendly NPCs in the game. Only enemy NPCs. You will not find any quest givers in towns.
That's fucking nuts. So there's no NPCs in the entire game? What the fuck? That's crazy. That sucks. No. Like, to me, it's like, if you want to try a new idea, I'm all for it. Because the odds are, it's going to be fucked. And people are going to fuck it even worse than... Think of the worst it could get fucked, and they're going to do worse than that. But you know what? I think you should try it. Because there's usually a couple of good things that you get out of each of those games.
That's just not what this game is doing. To quote directly here, they say you won't find any of the traditional MMO NPC cities, NPC quest givers, or NPC vendors in the world, but you will find a wide selection of creatures and AI enemies in PvE. Players will inhabit the lands, build the towns, handle the trading, do the crafting. All of that is player driven. No quest givers, however, does not mean no quest content, as the world will be filled with lore and mysteries that require exploration, deduction, and collaboration. Or when it comes to how that actually plays out in the game, you're gonna get quests from different items in the world. So maybe you find some clues scribbled on a book or inside of a ring or carved onto the surface of a piece of pottery. All of these will provide you a narrative drive, but also objectives to go towards based on whatever it was you found. Now, the exploration is said to be a big element of PAX Day. I'm really liking what I see here. So they said that when it comes to venturing out from the safety of the Heartlands, the next area that you go into is the wilderness, and there does seem to be an implication here that there will be things beyond the wilderness. Maybe we think of these almost as...
But like, you know how like in PUBG, for example, whenever you would get to the next zone and you knew that you got there before other people, and you would just sit there behind a rock, and then you hear somebody that's walking up and you're playing in third person so you can see them, and then you go like, bop, and that's it. So it's like, again, whenever I see new games like this, I am super fucking excited for them for two reasons. It's a new adventure, and it's a new adventure to exploit the fuck out of. That's the fun part for me, is figuring out all of the things that you shouldn't be able to do that you're gonna do anyway.
different biomes, and the further you get,
that's
you
the
move
content.
into, maybe eventually you move into swamp, or you move into the desert or other areas. I don't know, that hasn't been confirmed, but I'm just hypothesizing here.
Sure.
There does seem to be the implication that there is an area beyond the wilderness. So in the wilderness, this is where things get more dangerous, more deadly creatures, and this is also where they're going to start playing with kind of the fantasy folklore inspiration. A direct quote from the developer here: "We don't intend to just expand outwards. More often than not, we want to expand inward, actually doing things like making dungeons deeper. So say that you've been playing for a few years and then something happens in the world. Now you have a reason to go back because there was a door at the bottom of the dungeon that is now suddenly open, or an underground lake that is cleared, or a bridge that has been broken. Something changes and you have another reason to go back." This sort of...
I like that. I think that's very cool. I know people are question marking this. I think that's awesome. Like, imagine if in like Season of Mastery, you know, like in BRD, where like you go in, and like if you take a left, there's a door you can unlock, and then there's that big fucking fire giant. I think his name's Baelgar or some shit like that, and he's guarding a massive fucking door. Well, what if in Season of Mastery, you could open that fucking door, and there's a whole new raid entrance in BRD again? There's a completely new one. That would be fucking insane. That would be so cool. So yes, I'm very much in favor of these ideas. With no reward at the end. No, it'll be another TCG tabard. That's what you're gonna get.
Dynamic evolution of areas is really, really cool. It's something actually that they're talking about doing with like Ashes of Creation, where with time, with certain events that take place, things in the world can change. And so that one dungeon that you went to isn't always going to be exactly the same, and different paths can open up, or paths can be closed down, like bridges breaking or rubble falling in, or a lake emptying, and then maybe there's a dungeon entrance at the bottom of what was once that lake. I love this dynamic environmental stuff, and I think there's a lot of potential of what they can...
it's like you kill like I think this be cool, right? It is so like, imagine you're like descending into hell, and there's like a fucking lake of lava, and then you have to defeat some fucking skeleton lord, and if you do that, he can chauffeur you across the lake of lava. Right after you defeat him and like free him from his eternal torment, he can go back to being the fucking you know, like the like it's Charon, right, from fucking Dante, the fucking Inferno, but or Hades, right? It's the same fucking guy. I think that's completely possible. It's totally possible. It makes complete fucking sense. It would totally work.
Do with this. Also, in terms of exploration, they were asked if they were going to have a fast travel system in the game, and they said that the game will feature different ways to get around, but as with many other parts of PAX Day, there will be limitations and trade-offs when using them. The goal is not to trivialize travel and the logistics involved, but to offer a way to play most content and join your friends within a reasonable amount of time. This makes me wonder if they're going to have some sort of public transport systems, or some sort of traversal things, be it mounts or glider systems. World of Warcraft has ships that come and go, airships. There's a lot of different things you could do. Now, there are going to be survival elements in PAX Day. It isn't going to be one of those things where you have to keep up your thirst and hunger, but there will...
Thank fucking God. I'm so sick of games that you have to keep up your thirst and hunger for. The only reason why I tolerate it in Valheim is because the different things that you keep up your thirst and hunger with are tactical decisions. If it's just a red bar for health and a blue bar for fucking water, and then an orange bar for sleep, miss me with that bullshit. Take it out of the game, make it better.
Will be food and drink in the game,
sure,
but it just appears like that is going to be more giving you buffs. So food maybe gives you health, and drink maybe gives you something like more stamina. These are just some possibilities. There's also building. We've talked about this. Base building is going to be a thing. It's going to be a very big thing because all of the buildings in the game will be player constructed. They've said they've taken cues from games like Valheim. That's a great inspiration. Valheim.
Thank fucking God. That's what I just said. It's a good game. Valheim's building was fucking amazing. It was simple, it was clean, and it was great.
A fantastic game. I quite enjoyed the building. It could be cumbersome at times, but it was nevertheless addictive. And many of the 100 hours that I played Valheim were spent on just the base building. So there was some satisfaction to...
Couldn't be me. Could not fucking be me. But I tell you one thing, I have every single fucking weapon max level. Every piece of armor, max level. Every boss, dead. Every trophy, obtained. My house, a square.
Be had there. They've said that the building in PAX Day looks much like what we've seen in other survival MMOs. Building blocks effectively snap together, allowing players to build anything from a humble shack on their claimed plot of land to elaborate villages, complete with keeps, churches, which are evidently going to play a role in the PAX Day's world as well, and even building up walls and fortifications. I really love this idea, especially...
Well, it's like you could have a fucking raid and it'd be like a goblin castle, and you would need to make a battering ram to get into the raid, but you could only make a battering ram inside of a siege workshop, but you could only make a siege workshop inside of a castle, and you could only build a castle out in the wilderness. Like, that's how you do it. In my mind, I think that's the smart way to do something like this. I'm open to people telling me why it's wrong, but I don't think it is. I think it's cool.
Knowing, because I haven't touched on this yet, but they're talking about worlds with thousands of players. They said 5,000 was on the low end. They're talking
Thank
about
God.
10, 20,000 players.
100,000.
Now, when you hear that,
people
though,
on
are they
one
talking
realm.
about phased out players or all players
No, all
within
in the
one
same
like
place.
instance? That's
All in
what
the
we
same
don't know.
place.
I should also add one big thing they've talked about with this game is that they're going to
Remember,
be...
servers are technological limitations, and they add no function to gameplay other than making it worse. Servers suck.
Doing a lot of this stuff cloud-based, and if they're using the cloud, if they're using server-side tech, then maybe that does mean we get player counts that high, but I'm not sure exactly
I'm
how
sure
that
they'll
is
do
going
the
to
one
play
thing
out.
that
But
no other
nevertheless,
game
yeah,
has
we got a
done.
full-on survival game, large
I'll
numbers
believe
of
it when I
players,
see
and
it.
we're going to have tons of crafting
Which,
stuff
to be
building
fair,
up
was
this
true with
world. It all
Ashes.
sounds really cool. Now, what about progression? They were asked about things like classes or leveling up and skill points and all of that, and their response was, there won't be any classes in the way you think about it. You won't choose one in the character creation and be stuck with that forever, but that being said, no classes doesn't mean no roles. There will be roles, but we don't have those full details yet. They can share the crucial element, though, that yes, this game will support the Holy Trinity. So tank, healers, support, DPS.
Thank God. Every game that doesn't support tank, healer, and DPS is fucked up somehow. And the games that don't still do. Like Lost Ark. Oh, there's no tank in Lost Ark? Well, why the fuck do you have a gun lancer then? Oh, there's no healer? Then why the fuck does everybody want to support for each group? Because they're fucking healers. That's why.
That Trinity is going to be a part of PAX Day. So a classless version of this that's going to have the Trinity leads me to believe it's going to be gear-based. So depending on the gear that you equip, that's going to change if you are filling that tank role, that healer role, or that DPS role. I enjoy these systems. I actually really like how they do it in Albion Online. I think that's a good template of inspiration for how to build a classless system that still has the holy trinity of roles for players to fulfill. As to the...
I will even say that I think that it's relatively well done in New World. If you want to heal, level up your life staff, put on focus gear, put your points into focus, and play a life staff. That's it, and heal. If you want to tank, put on your fucking sword and shield, put on constitution and strength, heavy armor, and go to work. I think that's good.
Leveling side of things, they said that they don't have a global character level, but they do have skills, and those skills have a leveling system. Now let's talk about PvP and PvE. They actually described what their intention was for PvP without being too specific. So they said they want to make PvP feel more dynamic and more about social structures, roles, and positions of power in player form.
Thank fucking God. I am so sick of people trying to make MMOs a fair PvP experience. Thank fucking God. Nobody is going to take an MMO seriously for PvP. MMO PvP is a fucking joke. It's a joke every single game. Nobody cares about it. It doesn't matter. There's no prestige to it. Even the biggest MMO PvP games are irrelevant compared to even mid-level fucking actual competitive games. Nobody gives a shit. Make it to where if you've got better gear and you got better stuff, you kill them. That's it. Done. You probably should have a little bit of scaling to where people that are new have at least a bit of a chance. Sure. But for the most part, better gear, better player, better person, they win. It's that simple.
Communities instead of just a
MMO.
static PvP toggle or zone restrictions.
Stop trying to make it
We don't
an
want
esport.
PvP to feel like a separate mode and create a gap between PvE and PvP
Yeah,
players.
exactly.
PvP should be an integral part of the world and economy. We plan to offer players interesting and meaningful ways to opt in and dip their toes in PvP. The goal for them, they say, is to marry PvE and PvP together by offering opportunities for both to bring value to the party, be it facing the dangers of PvP or
This is probably not going to work, by the way. There's like a lot of people that play MMOs, like the kind of people that play MMOs to build houses don't want to go out and fucking on like some hunting party to kill people. Like in general, like those are two different audiences of people. And as long as you can allow them to exist, to coexist, I think the best thing about MMOs is that like in Final Fantasy, somebody can be a main and all they do is like blacksmithing or like logging and professions, shit like that. I think that is so cool. I love that. But the truth is that you have to have an ecosystem that supports that.
Creating the best gear for PvP players. The Heartlands will be restricted from any PvP fighting. Outside of that, players will have various options to choose if and how they want to experience PvP and how.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. Somebody says, what is this here? You can't mix them because people don't like being able to having to do either. I don't think that any of these games should try to focus on attracting people that only want to PvP with no PvE. Like, that's just not a good idea. It's not healthy for the game to attract a player base of people that are looking for that out of it.
How much they are willing to risk in order to do so. So really interesting talk here. Clearly they're saying that they don't want to force people into PvP, but they also want PvP to not feel like it's completely divorced from the rest of the game. And again, I keep going back.
This is an extremely hard balance to strike that almost no game does properly, and I would probably say almost no game does do it properly. And I think that they're going to need extensive, massive testing, huge amounts of time, like longitudinal studies to see exactly how people are responding to systems. Because truthfully, like people are going to do what they're going to do, but the systems are what causes them to do those things.
To it, but a great example in my mind is what Albion Online does, where they have these very distinct regions that are all part of the main world, and depending on where you venture into, you will know if PvP is going to happen, what sort of PvP, if it's full-on PvP, if it's loot dropping, if there's any sort of safety, if flagging is involved. There's some just very distinct borders to all of these things. So I guess I'm just going to be really curious. They did say they don't want to have a static PvP toggle or zone restrictions, but in my mind, those are the two main ways you do it if you're not trying to force people into PvP. So I don't know. I'm very intrigued as to what they intend to do with this. PvP isn't all there is. There is going to be PvE content in the game, quite a bit actually. You're going to of course fight wildlife and then use various parts of them towards the crafting, maybe even food and drink. The PvE content is going to be getting more challenging as you push further and further away from the Heartlands. Or
I hope they have large scale raids like 20, 40, 50 people in the raid. I just think it's cool whenever there's a lot of people that are fighting a dragon. I don't really care if it's hard or not. I just think it's cool. Like in classic WoW, you have like 40 people there and they're doing like molten core and it's like everybody's there. I don't know. I think that's cool. That's all there is to it for me.
as they've touched on, as you go deeper down into dungeons when they continue to expand them. And they have also confirmed we will be getting not only dungeon content, but raid content as well. So you might have got the assumption early on that this is like a primarily PvP focused game with the survival crafting stuff, but no, sounds like they're gonna have a lot of content for PvE fans that isn't just doing crafting. They also mentioned that the gameplay that they've shown is just work in progress. They're gonna be doing some big overhauls to it. This is more like a proof of concept, what we've seen so far, which I think should also have us set our expectation as to...
Which again, guys, like, I know that some people are going to get sold on these graphics, but bro, we have seen the Unreal Engine people make this, and there's some fucking 48-year-old designer with like a black t-shirt and white hair and glasses and like spiked up hair, and he makes this in like 13 seconds, and everybody is like, whoa! So I'm not gonna just completely lose my mind over the graphics, but it's pretty cool that we're coming into this new age where things look this nice.
How far along this game is in development, or even more so, how far away it is. And they did touch on this in their FAQ. They said there's no date for PAX Day's release, but as soon as they know, they're going to let everyone know, and they're currently going through alpha testing, which you can sign up for right now on their website. I'm not surprised that this game has seen so much excitement behind it. I think there's a lot of really cool and interesting things. This pitch that they have of, hey, we've got like a bunch of industry veterans. We've worked on MMOs. We're finally making the game we've always dreamed of. We've heard that a lot. And a lot of times that doesn't really seem to come to bear. We don't really end up seeming to get maybe what that lofty goal is. But it's certainly possible. And, the one...
I think people should keep trying, though. Keep trying. Eventually somebody will get it.
One real positive check mark for this game is they have a lot of really good backing here. One thing that's been brought up a lot is the fact that they've made quite a bit in funding. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's something like $30 million.
That's a lot.
Which is and isn't a lot of money, especially when it comes to developing an MMO, especially when you consider the length of development, typically somewhere in the ballpark of 5 to 7 years long. I'm imagining $30 million isn't going to take care of the salaries as well as all of the other expenses that are associated with development over the course of the next 5 years. And
I mean, if it takes 5 years, it's not a lot. He's right about that.
More funding will have to come from somewhere at some point, because a lot of the MMOs we know and love and play were somewhere in the vicinity of like $100 million to $500 million for the cost of development. So in that context, $30 million or so that they've raised doesn't seem like that much money. But I'm not trying to down this. I just think it's the main point is it's still early days. There's still a lot to be worked on, most certainly. There's still a lot to be improved with time, and we're still probably many years away from release. But it sounds cool. Lots of interesting promises, and we'll see how they all pan out. That's going to do it for this video, though. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.
Look, if they want to fucking alpha test this fucking game, all they have to do is just message me. And you want to know what's wrong with the systems? Give me and all the viewers the code. We'll log in. We'll figure out what's wrong with them. Yeah, we'll figure that out real quick. Don't worry about it. They just got to get the game ready and put it out there and let us play it. That's it. Break the game for free. That's the fun part. That's fun. Like, fuck, man. That's enjoyable for me. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Absolutely. What's wrong? It doesn't work. I mean, that's a good start. Exactly. Yeah, you let us exploit it. That's what it is. And, yeah, gamers so much smarter than devs. It's not that gamers are smarter than devs. It's that there are, like 10,000 people that are going to be beta testing a game like this. Somebody said in chat they have 22 employees. Guess what? Those 22 people can't think of every interaction. It's the same as like in PoE, there's always something that's fucking broken that needs to get fixed. In WoW, there's always something that's fucking broken that needs to get fixed, because you've got so many tuning knobs, it's so complex, there are so many variables, it is impossible for them to be able to get every single one to come together. So yeah, I think this is probably what they should do. It's not necessarily a... it's not a condemnation if a game is not perfect on release. But I think that it's about how you adapt based off of that. You know, players also try to do things outside what the devs intended as well. Yeah, exactly. As a dev, we sometimes get tunnel vision on an idea that we won't let go of, even though it doesn't work. Oh, so I guess you work on World of Warcraft. Yeah, I'm aware of that. I've been very aware of that for many years now. Yes, and, you know, this is another trap that developers fall into, is that they have the intended way that they want. They have like, well, we want this to be in the game because we want people to do this. Well, what if the people don't want to do it? Oh, whoa. I mean, but we want them to do that. Well, they don't want to do it. So they're playing around it. And that's the difference. The vision is always very nice and cute. But the moment that vision hits an actual fucking player base, it had better be ready to change. Because if it doesn't, the game dies. You have to look at reality, yeah. Let's see here. And you don't have a game. Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. We don't want to do bounties. Exactly. Yeah, there you go. YouTube's new link policy that they want to implement? No, I guess I could look at that. Sure. This is a good video by Force. Holy shit, I love these videos. They are great. I can't believe he got a sponsorship for Tower of Fantasy. This is just fucking outrageous, man. God damn, man. Possible thing of developing everything whenever you develop a game. Yeah, exactly. The thing is, it's again, in my mind, what determines if a game will be good or not is like, that's why I'm very, very hopeful about a game like New World, Blue Protocol, and I'm less hopeful about Lost Ark. You want to know why? It's because the devs refuse to change the fucking game. Nobody wants to sit there and do 2 fucking Chaos Dungeons on 6 characters. That's stupid, but they keep making people do it. Why? This is stupid. Like, what are you doing? Why? What's wrong with you? Why do we have Phaons? The fuck? Path of Exile doesn't have Phaons. They have trading, and it's a free game too. Why the fuck can't you do it? It's embarrassing. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, but that's pretty much the way I feel about it. Make more money off of whales. Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that if that's their goal, then the goal is, you know, counter to what the players want to see. So yeah. That's why you need to play like 6 characters? Yeah, exactly. And Lost Ark is a great game being held back by dogshit systems. Yeah, you know who makes dogshit systems? The developers. The designers. The Smilegate. That's the real problem. The real problem isn't fucking Amazon. It's Smilegate. Because of the way the game plays. They did that. So yeah. And I think that if they want to make it better, they're going to have to. And that's why I'm very positive about something like Blue Protocol. Is that people said, hey, yo, leveling fucking sucks, gathering sucks dick, and it doesn't work very well. And they're like, oh, yeah, we agree, we're going to make it better. Oh, okay, great. Well, then maybe this game will be good one day. Almost no game is good on release. Amazon has its problems too? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But you take Amazon out of New World, or sorry, out of Lost Ark, and you still got a problem. Like that's it. Smilegate doesn't care about English version and Korean version is what they make their income from. I mean, that's fine, but you still got to do that same stupid shit in Korea too. Like, I know people really like the game over there. That's great, but I still wouldn't play it the way they do. That's what it is. Even Elden Ring needed patches? Yeah, there you go. Every game should have New World Gathering system. Yeah, New World Gathering system is phenomenal.